Ambassador Michael SCHWARZINGER. Very nice meeting you.
Hello, nice meeting you. Welcome to the Austrian residence.
Thank you for inviting us today.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
May I introduce you to my wife, Rosa Maria?
Hello. Nice meeting you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting us today.
May I ask you coming in?
Oh, yes, please.
Please, follow
Thank
me.
you.
Please.
Oh, your residence is beautiful.
Thank you very much. This is our living room here.
I love it. It's lovely. How long has it been since you lived here, Ambassador?
We have been living here for 1.5 years now.
I see. What was the most memorable moment during your stay here in Korea?
It was the Olympics. It is special if you are in a country who has the Olympics. The
I see.
Winter Olympics are very famous in Austria, and we met a lot of very interesting people, and also the Paralympics. Then it was the visit to our SOS Children's Village.
I don't think a lot of people know about SOS Children Village. Could you explain more about what it is, please?
It is Hermann Meiner was the founder of SOS Children's Village. After the Second World War in Austria, he built up a home for children. His principle was that every child needs a home and a mother, and it should be living with sisters and brothers together. So, and this was built up in Imst in Tyrol after the Second World War, and the first international village was established in South Korea in Daegu. And now they have 3 villages here. You see, in Seoul is one, and Daegu and Suncheon.
I see. Could you tell us more about your role related to SOS Children Village, please?
Yes, a few years ago, I got the ambassador, Goodwill Ambassador for SOS Children in Romania on the posting before. So, and it was for me a dream to be also an ambassador.
Right.
It is a good thing that you look as a Goodwill Ambassador, you look for money, of course, and to have contact with the companies, and this is what I did.
I see. And as a Korean, I'm very, very grateful to Austria. There are 2 Austrian volunteers who worked here in Korea for the Hansen disease patient. They really took a good care of them in Sorok Island. And I know that there's a mass effort in Korea to award Nobel Peace Prize to these 2 people. What do you think about this as an Austrian?
It is a great honor for Austria that Koreans have come together to do this in honor of Marianne and Margaret. The 2 ladies live now in Austria, I think the story is really very touching,
Right.
because these ladies worked for 40 years on a very difficult disease, and they helped the people, and especially they were ready and good enough to touch the patients directly and to take care also for their emotional needs, so that they concluded the latest medical knowledge about how to treat the disease, but also the openness to treat them not as patients but as human beings.
Right. I know that residence features its own country's culture, so could you introduce some Austrian items, please?
Yes, I could do that. We have prepared for you several things to show you around. Yes.
I would love to see it. You prepared a lot, Ambassador. Thank you.
Hopefully. I hope you like it.
Actually, I heard Austria is famous for ceramics.
This is Augarten porcelain, and the company has been working for 300 years now.
300 years, wow.
It
It's
was founded
beautiful.
1718. And it shows a Lipizzan horse with a
Yes,
horse rider.
yes. I see how it's sophisticated.
It's all handmade.
Also, I see Kugel. I recognize that one because I bought that as a souvenir from
Yeah.
Austria when I visited Austria.
The Mozartkugel is old recipe also, and it's originally from Salzburg.
Oh, I see. And I also see a cake over there. And could you tell how that cake was created?
Yes, it was in 1832 when
1832.
Count Metternich ordered for the same evening a newly created cake for a soiree that he had planned. And the problem in the kitchen was that the chef pâtissier fell ill. So it was on a 20-year-old Franz Sacher to rescue and to fulfill the order of the prince. And he invented, by some idea, the cake with chocolate. It was the first cake using chocolate.
Oh, I see.
With some cream you should eat, actually.
yes, I
So
would
it
love
should be with cream.
Thank you.
Maybe you put yourself how much you want?
Yes, I'll do that. So put the cream on top of the
No,
cake,
on the
right
side,
next to.
yes,
Okay, got it. Oh, it's really good.
What can you say?
What else can I say? Right. So delicious. Thank you so much for all of this preparation. And so, shall we move on to another place and continue our conversation?
Let's do that. Fine.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming to make the interview.
So, I think you must have lived in many countries. What was your first impression when you came here?
Yeah, we were very happy to come to Korea. It's a very interesting country, and we are still finding new things here in Seoul and in the country, and it's a thrilling country.
I heard that the exchange between two countries, between Korea and Austria, started 127 years ago. Could you explain briefly about the history between our two countries?
Yes, this is a very interesting thing because for both countries it was a change and an opener to get into contact with faraway countries, not only with neighboring countries. So the Austro-Hungarian Empire sent a ship all the way from a port in what was then Austria to Korea to get into contact. I think the first harbor was Jeju Island, but then they sailed upwards to where the king was, and they made it to the court, and they were received by the king. And then the idea came to draft a treaty of friendship and commerce, and another boat was sent from Austria to Korea, and they stayed for weeks. And they presented themselves with a letter from the Emperor of Austria, and then they were allowed to sign this treaty, and then a diplomat from Korea traveled months and months to Vienna to have the visit replicated. But I think it was a challenging thing for both states, so far away in those times when traveling was so difficult. But nevertheless, they started an interest in having friendly relations, even with faraway countries. Not to make a colony or something, or to impose something on the others, but really to learn how the world is.
Right.
And so that started this interest in Korea, and likewise maybe it also had an effect at the court in Joseon dynasty.
I see. This February 14th, the Austrian Prime Minister Sebastian Kurz and our President Moon Jae-in had a summit meeting. What kind of results do you think we got out of it?
Yes, the summit meeting was very successful, and my Prime Minister, Federal Chancellor Kurz, was very happy with what he got in Seoul and how it was received. And it was very generous from the Korean side. It was the very first bilateral meeting of head of government from Austria in the Republic of Korea. So for us it was also a visit of historical dimensions and very important. And both Korea and Austria want to modernize their industries. And they are very strongly interested in research and development, in digitalization. And Korea is the forerunner for fifth generation telecommunication. Austria would like to be the very first state in Europe to do the same thing, where Korea was the forerunner worldwide. We want to be, so to say, the same thing on the European level. And so there was a lot to discuss, and we also signed a memorandum of understanding, which established a joint committee for research and development. And this committee will meet in Vienna in the summertime to establish the projects that we could have, because Korea is a country of very large enterprises, and Austria is a country of small but very specialized enterprises. And here we must find connections between the specialists in Austria and the big companies in Korea. But I think we could help each other both ways, because in some special fields the Austrians are extremely good and world champions, so we can draw an advantage from both sides. And this was part of the debate that took place between my Chancellor and President Moon Jae-in, how to have both advantage, to find each other, so to say, as good partners for the future.
At this summit especially, there was a lot of talk on economic cooperation between the two countries. Which area do you think we have the most potential when it comes to economic cooperation between our two countries?
Our exchange that we have between Korean companies and Austrian companies is half-finished products for the industry. So we provide special steels, special devices, glass, chemicals to be used in Korea, and the Koreans sell the same stuff or similar things to the Austrian industrial plants. So we cooperate not with consumer products so much, but it's parts and components that is put into big things on both sides.
Oh, I see.
So half-finished things. But these are extremely specialized. So these are materials that are specially produced in any country to the other country. And it is to the advantage of both sides to continue this sort of a chain of production that is running between Korea and Europe, and European states, including Austria. And this needs, so to say, continually improved to improve the competitivity of the products of each partners.
I see. One of the things achieved during this summit meeting was S&T Joint Committee. Could you explain about this joint committee and also what kind of impact this committee will have in the future?
This joint committee is quite large. It comprises representatives of the ministries for research and representatives from the companies. And the idea is to find matching points where we have something to offer or where we have a special demand. And the idea is then to, so to say, debate at a gathering, at a conference in Vienna in the summertime on which projects can we start. And this is the process that is necessary, because we have to explain, for example, from the Austrian side, what can we offer to Korean companies, and what are our specialities, where are we particularly competitive, what can we offer to the Koreans, and vice versa. What would we need specially support from Korea, or where can we buy, for example, know-how from Korea. And this is an advantage for the industries of both countries. But it needs to be really debated by the experts to find out where the matching points are, the interfaces are.
So we have a lot to looking forward to.
I think research is very important for both of our states. I think to be modern products, and to market new inventions and findings into consumer products. That is very important for both countries, because both Korea and Austria rely strongly on exports.
And I've also heard that during the summit, President Moon Jae-in spoke highly of Austria's efforts in admitting their past faults and trying to make up for the Nazi-related past.
Yeah, we really try to come to terms with the past. That means that we support research. That means that we support the memory. We make interviews with those who have survived those times. It is very important that the children learn about this, that it's in the curricula. We sponsor museums, we sponsor meetings, and this is very important to us. And we recently had an anniversary, 100 years of our republic, and we make big festivities and invited survivors to account what was their personal relation, their personal memories of this.
Let's switch our topic. I've heard Korean culture is very popular in Austria. How popular is it?
Yeah, that is very interesting that young people in Austria have a strong interest in K-pop and products from Korea. There are K-pop festivals in my country now. But I think the most important thing is the social media that is shared at the same time by young people in Korea and in Austria likewise. So they are entering to the same social platforms in the internet. And this brings the young people in both countries, or in Korea and in Europe, together. And K-pop is extremely successful in America, on the American market. And I think this has also strong after effects in all over Europe. And there are now more and more shops which sell K-pop products, whatever that is.
Ambassador, I heard that you put a lot of time and efforts to promote Austria in Korea. And not long ago, actually, you visited high school students. And we were there to follow you. So let's take a look.
On May 8th, the Austrian Ambassador to South Korea, Mikhail SCHWARZINGER, went to meet students at a Seoul high school. Ambassador SCHWARZINGER came here because of a program called EU Goes to School. It's been run since 2014 by European Union member countries' embassies in Korea and the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education. To start things off, a lecture to the students introducing the EU and Austria.
Europe is full of complicated...
Last year, as part of the EU Goes to School program, the ambassadors of 21 EU countries in Korea visited more than 50 schools to communicate with the students directly. Recently, the roles of ambassadors in Korea have become more diverse because of the growing importance of public diplomacy, that is, communicating directly with the people.
The main essence of why we are doing this, why we are working so closely together, is to never have a war again in our area.
Through this lecture, the students indirectly experienced another country and got a better understanding of the diversity of culture. The lecture was followed by a Q&A session in which the students got to ask questions they'd always wondered about.
What do you think were the reasons that Austria was able to win the status of a neutral country?
The situation was after the Second World War that Austria was occupied by the victorious powers of the Second World War. And the solution at the end was that we offered to become a permanently neutral state. That means we vowed not to enter NATO or any other defense scheme and arrangement and stand alone.
EU Goes to School has become the premier education program about the international community, thanks to the high participation rate of students and the efforts made by the ambassadors. And once again, with so much interest from the audience, the program was a success.
개사라는 직업은 사실 많이 들어보긴 했는데 사실 제대로 뭘 하는지 잘 몰랐는데 그래도 그거에 대해 알게 됐고 질의응답 시간을 통해 이제 이 직업에서 중요하게 여겨야 되는 것 그리고 힘든 점도 알게 돼서 좋았던 것 같아요.
EU뿐만 아니라 오스트리아 쪽 난민 문제 같은 것도 이번 시간에 알게 된 것 같고 해서 지금 좀 더 살아보면서 좀 더 알아볼 것 같아요.
EU는 그냥 먼 그런 유럽끼리만 하는 연합이라고만 생각했는데 한국이랑도 이렇게 밀접한 관련이 있구나. 그래서 되게 관심이 깊게 생긴 것 같습니다.
We want that the European Union is understood because it's very hard to teach the subject of European Union to teachers because it's really complicated in a way and unusual to many countries. And that is why we have devised this program to go to schools and explain it. Yeah, I found that they were very attentive and the questions were very intelligent, and so I was very happy to meet them. I think it went quite well.
And what other things are you doing to promote Austria in Korea?
I think this is really one of the most important tasks of any ambassador to try to enhance and expand bilateral relations.
Right.
That is done on the level of the politics, that you find ways politicians can meet and take an interest. So we always, so to say, push a little Koreans to visit Austria. We provide to politicians in Austria good reasons to include Korea in the trips that they would make into the region. On the level of the arts and music and painting and film and theater, we support financially travel costs of artists to come here to make it easier for joint projects. For example, we support sports people when they do sports. We had the Olympic Games last year, and we try really hard to support the Austrian team there. This summer we have the World Championship in swimming, and Austria is sending a team over, and we're already corresponding with the Swimming Association to provide support. And we send information about events in Korea to Austria, so that we have more Austrian participation, say, in conferences that are organized in Korea. We're very happy to see our former state president going to the Jeju Peace Forum to deliver a lecture there. And I think relations between states, and of course not to forget trade, commerce, and to also to help investments in both directions. So the thing has very much to do with people-to-people contacts in all fields, from the official sphere to the whatever individuals that would come. We also are happy to support tourism.
So speaking of tourism, are there any places in Austria that you would like to recommend for Koreans?
We are very happy when Koreans visit festivals that we have, especially in the summertime. But it is also of interest to visit Austria in the autumn or before Christmas. We have Christmas markets in November and December, and they're very cozy and romantic. And Austria is also a very good place for hiking or visiting lakes.
Any more hidden charms?
We have very much city-to-city tourism, but I think the countryside offers a lot also. So for hiking and seeing remote places and going elsewhere, and not for everybody else. But of course, it's always interesting to see where Sound of Music was filmed and those famous locations. Yeah, nobody wants to miss them. Sure.
Exactly. Ambassador, I think this is my last question. How do you want to be remembered as Austrian ambassador to Korea after your post?
I think the most rewarding thing is when you successfully bring people together and forge friendships. And if these prevail, that is a good thing.
Ambassador, thank you very much for having us over at your residence today.
Thank you very much for your visit and for the interview. Thank you very much.
And I really look forward to your future plans here in Korea.
Oh yes, I hope it will work out nicely. Thank you very much.